The 80th anniversary of D-Day, where tens of thousands of our finest, of our greatest generation, stormed the beaches of Normandy, France, part of the largest seaborne invasion in history, and ushered in an unprecedented era of human flourishing and prosperity because of their courage and sacrifice, because they understood that it was America's time to lead and to take up arms against tyranny and against the spread of aggression. And tonight I have the honor to read an account of that day from Private Benjamin Alvarado's personal diary. He was part of the second wave to land on the Easy Red portion of Omaha Beach in Normandy. These are his words. It was very early in the morning, 6th of June, 1944, cold, dark, and foggy with a little drizzle. The water was choppy. I could not see land even though we were only 11 miles from shore. The drone of the engines stopped, and it was quiet again. It was 5:30 a.m. when all hell broke loose. All battleships began firing. Over 5,000 ships filled the waters, and planes filled the sky as far as one could see, all headed in one direction. The noise was indescribably deafening. Continuous firing for our ships, coupled with the drone of our planes bombing the beaches. Never in all the training I went through was I prepared for this. It was time to go over, grab the rope net, lift my leg over the side, hang on for dear life, 60 pounds on my back. The rope net swings in and out the ship, and the Higgins boat struggled to meet 20, 30 feet down. We were going to hit the water and be crushed between the ship and the Higgins boat. We managed somehow to embark into the Higgins. The boat was full. The motor started, the boat shuddered, and away we went, up and down the waves. No land in sight. Go toward the noise and flashes of fire. We were under the swishing sound of our big guns, 12 and 14-inch shells, trumpeting awesomely, cutting the air above us, almost lifting us out of the water. My heart was pounding out of my shirt as though my life were being sucked out. It was horrifying. As we approached the beach, the Germans continued spraying our boat with machine gun fire. Our boat went as close as it dared, and the ramp went down. I was the third one out. Water up to my chest, holding my M1 high, pushing the water with my legs, trying to keep my balance. I was numb with fear of what I was about to encounter. It was early dawn, foggy, smoke-covered beach, flashes of light, rumbling explosions, German artillery, mortar shells bursting around us, bullets whizzing by. At the water's edge, I tripped over several dead GIs. My hair stood on end. I ran as fast as my legs could carry me through the smoke and gauntlet of enemy fire, running erratically, avoiding GIs that had fallen. I ran toward a bluff that had a slight overhang where others were huddled. We were wet, scared, and trapped, all in a state of shock. Nothing was said. We made room for each other, mirroring our fear, unable to encourage each other. Pausing for a moment to contemplate, I realized the improbability of my ever going home again. The invasion continued. Barbed wire and landmines were everywhere. The water was filled with boats pressured to unload their men and equipment. To my right, through a haze of smoke and fog, bodies were everywhere. Steel obstacles were scattered throughout the beach. The indiscriminate slaughter continued. As our men scrambled frantically for safety, a lieutenant made his way, running toward us, looking as though he'd just come out of a storm into our little sanctuary of protection. Gasping for air, he said, "Men, this is Omaha Beach. You're on the second wave." Catching his breath, he continued, "For what you have just been through, you men deserve a Purple Heart. Now we are ready to do what we are trained for." Our group, the first and second wave of the First Army, was ready to move up. "Watch out for the landmines," someone exclaimed. We went through a small opening that had been in the barbed wire. The path had been marked by the men that had stepped on the landmines. When we reached the top, I felt we had broken loose from a trap, yet still quite apprehensive about the landmines. Not looking back, I could see where the Germans had entrenched themselves and were now dead. The shooting continued as we scampered to places of protection, roadside ditches. The Germans were beginning to surrender as they saw us inching up to them, crying out, "Kamerad, Kamerad." A white piece of cloth would go up and they would scamper out with their hands up, sometimes crying. The Germans were on the run, leaving their dead and wounded behind. They left their snipers behind to slow us down. but we continued advancing. We could still hear the rumbling sounds of those big shells being fired from our ships deeper into enemy lines, an enormous extended hand of protection for us, a welcome sound. Our trucks, tanks, artillery pieces, and supplies were catching up to us. Every time we would liberate a town, the people would run out of their homes to greet us. Church bells would ring for hours, day or night. The old men and women offered us wine and bread. Orders, we could not stop.